it basically went from nothing to, I think it almost broke into the top 10 cryptocurrencies.
Of all the pardons out there, this is like one of the better pardons you could do, in my opinion. Like, I think like so obviously deserve that pardon. And frankly, this won Trump a huge amount of like long-term favor.
Allowing more people to look at the space and actually think like, oh, okay, this is worth getting into now. I'm not gonna, start up a project and then just like Ross get railroaded and, frivolously attacked with lawsuits and legal warfare.
So the way that yield is generated is a person who mints avUSD, the assets that they use to mint the avUSD with, are put into on-chain yield-bearing dollar-neutral positions, dollar-neutral trades by some of our trading partners.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DeFi Podcast. Today is Thursday, January 23rd, and there is a lot to talk about. It's been an exciting, nonstop week in crypto. Last week, we had an episode completely focused on AI agents and coins with Austin Barak. If you haven't had a chance, please go check that out. It was an awesome episode. But all of a sudden, AI agents, at least for the time, have taken a backseat to something that I never would have expected, which is celeb coins. Celeb coins usually don't do that well. When I think of celeb coins, I think of like Mother and Haktua coin, etc. But this past weekend on Friday night, we saw the launch of the official Trump coin, which he announced on Truth Social and then later again on Twitter. And it was an absolutely insane weekend. I have a lot to talk about on this topic. It is so many things happening at the same time. But first, let me just pause there and say, Rhett, Jared, did you guys follow this? Did you trade it? What do you think about it at a high level before we dive into some details? What do you think?
I did not trade it. I followed it. And by the time I noticed it, it was like worth a couple billion already. And I had a group of friends that were just like going nuts over it. And the thing that like really several people in my friend group were talking about was that it caused like all these other tokens to nuke because everyone's like selling everything else to buy Trump. And it's like, what the heck? And of course, I did not buy any. I wake up the next morning and it was worth like 20 something billion. And then it went to 60 something billion. And I'm like, maybe I should have bought some. I obviously didn't. But those meme coins are it's so hard to tell which ones are going to do well and which ones won't. And it wasn't clear to me that like something that's already worth $2 billion, which is already like an insanely high valuation relative to historical like celeb coins, like would keep going that far. So I totally missed that one. It was interesting. I found it really interesting also that
just real quick, Rhett, before you go on to
ahead.
that, I posted this on the weekend. You can see here, it's just a snapshot of a few coins, but exactly what you're saying, right? When they launched the coin, basically everyone liquidated all of their meme coins and other coins, and the only things that rallied were Sol, Fart coin, and of course Trump coin. Right. Yeah. But exactly what you're saying, like it just sucked all of the oxygen out of the market and everyone just piled into Trump and for some reason Fart coin and Sol just kind of temporarily, I guess, in order to be able to buy it. But yeah, I'm sorry. Keep going.
Someone tweeted today and said, hey, Trump, during your press conference today, could you fart? And it's like hashtag fart coin.
Awesome.
That one's kind of funny. But yeah, I was surprised he launched it. I know some people in crypto are like super annoyed and feel like it's like very grifty. Other people are like, it's fine. He didn't promise that it does anything. It doesn't do anything. He just launched it and whatever, do with it as you please. Like, frankly, like, I think even some of the people annoyed by this partly blame Gary Gensler because over the last few years, meme coins got extra normalized because the fastest way to get in trouble with the SEC was to launch anything with any kind of utility. So it's like meme coins are like the most legal thing to do. So then they've become like ultra popular.
Because they have zero utility. Like it's just a meme coin.
I'm not promising any utility. Therefore, there's no value in the effort of others and blah, blah, blah. And plus, I think there's also something more sinister personally that Gary specifically wanted to go after some of the best projects to hurt the space. I think there's something there because he's very openly like trying to harm the space and harm the reputation of the space, etc. And then, yeah, quickly, the other thing that I found kind of interesting was Melania launches like the next day or 2 days later,
Yeah.
and by the time I saw that one, it was already worth like 5 billion. But like Trump nuked because people were rotating from Trump to Melania. It was just kind of funny. I thought it would be pretty funny if like a bunch of crypto people all started launching their own meme coins of their own name with that exact same kind of format or whatever. But I found it really strange and interesting. Strange that it pumped so hard. Like a 60 billion, it was more than 60 billion at its cap, is like several multiples of any other celeb coin I've ever seen. The most successful one I've seen other than that is probably Mother from Iggy, and she stayed super engaged with it. And she has like some online casino that uses Mother tokens and stuff, and hers is worth like, low tens of millions, and his is worth like mid tens of billions. It's like the scale just like went so far beyond my expectations.
I mean, it was really insane, right? Like, I think if he had launched it and it had just stayed at a $1 or $2 or $3 billion meme coin, like, I don't think it would have been as newsworthy. But it basically went from nothing to, I think it almost broke into the top 10 cryptocurrencies, by FDV. Like, it was, I mean, the rise was meteoric, and a ton of people made ridiculous amounts of money in size.
Well, Bill,
but, yeah.
Don't forget, if you listen to the mainstream media, the Trump coin is a way for people to bribe Trump to do, get him to do things that they want him to do, and it's fully legal if they get in through buying the coin. At least that's what, that's what like MSNBC or CNN would have you believe. I do think it's a little, it's definitely a little like silly. I noticed that he didn't even call it a coin. He just called it the Trump meme. Which is, I guess, an interesting framing of it. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't touch that. I have just on principle, I don't touch meme coins because I think I want to expose myself to things that have utility. I don't want to gamble on things I don't like. There's no explanation for why some of them go high. It's just, how much attention can you get, how many Twitter likes can you get, and then people just sort of all pile in one after the other. It's basically the greater fool, like a perfect example of that just existing in crypto.
Yeah, I do have on good authority though that Jared's getting ready to ape his whole net worth into Trudeau coin.
Only so I can dump it really hard afterwards.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So one other quick take. So I agree. Meme coins are basically like, it's kind of the most casino-ish thing in crypto other than online casinos. And, some people do really well in casinos and some people don't. I saw, in another chat group of mine, some people that were upset about like, hey, I'm holding all these things with utility and they're not pumping like Trump coin and some of these other things are. And the point that one of my buddies made was, hey, missing out on some meme coin pumping while you're holding like a really high utility, useful crypto asset is kind of probably similar feeling to how people felt a few years back when GameStop was pumping super hard and you're over there sitting on like NVIDIA stock. It's like, well, NVIDIA has insane fundamentals and it's going to run too, but it didn't do the meme thing. And so I think I don't feel that much FOMO over those just because I am very confident that I can't win the meme rotation game. So I just don't play it. I've never been good at those sorts of games as much. But like as a quick, I was just looking on CoinGecko, the FDV of Trump coin is still almost 40 billion. The FDV of Uniswap, which is the highest volume decentralized exchange ever, is like 12 billion. So in a few days, it's like, more than 3x one of the biggest DeFi projects in the world that launched like 5+ years ago. So the scale is just insane.
Yeah, although it's a bit weird, right? Because when it first launched, right? When Trump Coin first was announced, I initially thought it was a scam because 80% of the token is being held by insiders. And usually when a token launches and 80% is held by insiders, you just don't touch it. It's a red flag, you know? It just means that they're going to dump on you. But this one's, it's a bit weird. Okay, the FDV is super high, but 80% is locked up by the team. And, you know, I don't know, whoever's involved in the team. They're supposed to start unlocking in a few months, but I saw some tweets about how they're already selling from the wallet and in decent size, because not only is the on-chain liquidity really high, but also every single centralized exchange has listed this thing already or is working on listing it. So liquidity is actually pretty deep. So it's a weird one, like what to make of it. And, you know, obviously, like Trump himself is, you know, of course, not probably involved in these. Like, he's the president of the United States now. He's worried about a bunch of things. But someone in his team launched this. And now it's a significant part of President Trump and his team, whoever's allocated the tokens, a significant part of their net worth. It's like, you know, of course, I think it's going to affect their decisions. It's definitely going to affect the way they think about crypto. But
hopefully for the best.
Yeah, hopefully for the best. But then I'm wondering, like, what is it that they have planned for this thing that we don't know about yet? Like with World Liberty Financial, they issued this token and they went out and they started buying, you know, Ethereum, and they started buying Lido and Ethena, right? And like, I don't know what the plans for TrumpCoin is, but they have this huge treasury now that they could do, you know, pretty meaningful things with it. They could do some positive things with it. I don't know. It's just kind of exciting to see what's going to happen with it. And the meteoric rise of it this weekend was obviously really fun to watch. There's a lot there. It launched on Solana, and I haven't used this app, but did you guys see this MoonPay, this MoonPay app? Do you guys know this app? So basically, there's this app that makes it very easy for someone who doesn't really do anything on chain to be able to trade on chain. And it shot to the #1 app either in the App Store or the #1 finance app in the App Store, because everyone was messaging crypto people and being like, hey, like, how do I get crypto? Like, how do I buy Trump? How do I do it? And of course, these people, they don't have like a phantom wallet. They don't know how to get money on chain, but a lot of them have never even done a single crypto transaction, but they're like, I want to buy Trump, right? So MoonPay, I think that's the name of the app. I haven't used it, but makes it very easy to just download the app, plug in the contract address, and boom, you can just buy it. It just does the on-chain part for you. And it was this huge onboarding event. Apparently, it's like the #1 onboarding event for people who have never touched crypto to touch crypto, you know, which is just kind of an interesting thing to see. You know, I obviously, like, I would rather it be for some sort of legit DeFi use or something, but whatever, it's getting people on chain, right? They don't even know that they're on chain, but it's getting people on chain, which is kind of cool.
Let them get on chain with meme coins and then lure them into, you know, becoming DeFi degens, and we'll have a brand new financial system within a few years.
Totally. Yeah. I think I saw something like more than half of people who own Trump coins have never used crypto before or something. And the Solana chain had a lot of performance issues because there was so much activity happening.
Although it didn't fall over.
No, yeah, it didn't fully go down, but I had some friends on there trying to, buy and sell at the right times, and could not get transactions to go through. Honestly, this is not a huge criticism of Solana. Actually, it was legitimately like insane volume. I think it was like the Phantom Wallet put out and said, hey, we have like millions of transactions like attempting to go through every second. And so, you know, like, no matter how scaled you are, like, you can get hit hard with those things. So hopefully it's a good onboarding event.
It's that's another interesting point of this episode this past weekend, which is, you know, people have been building these network of chains, right? The Optimism stack, the Cosmos stack, the Avalanche L1 stack that we're a big fan of. Like, there's this idea that we're going to have these app chains and these network of chains that are going to all be able to talk to each other. But at the same time, a lot of folks are working on, you know, make one chain go super fast. You know, Solana is obviously like one of the first ones to do this. There's Mega ETH that's going to come out soon. The Avalanche ecosystem is working on their own version of this, like basically making the C chain go ridiculously fast. And there are a number of other chains that are like this, basically just saying, hey, let's just take one chain and let's just make it go as fast as possible. And, you know, I think TrumpCoin showed, like, hey, like Solana is at least at this moment in time, they're winning this race, right? I don't know many chains that would have been able to handle this type of volume over this past weekend. So it's really credit to these guys that, unlike in the past where they have had some issues where the chain has not been able to perform pretty well, like it performed pretty well. Like they got a lot of people on chain, a lot of transactions done, ton of volume. Kudos to them for sure.
To be fair, I think they're still somewhat centralized, are they not?
Well, the validators
more so than ETH. It depends on who you're comparing to.
Yeah,
just be curious to know about. I remember that situation early on where they revealed that over 50% of the transactions were being processed by some internal service that they had running. I don't remember the exact details because it's been a while, but I'm curious to know if that's still the case and if that's actually taking a lot of the load that's actually going on.
They have very beefy validators, and the way I've heard it described, I'm not in the Solana ecosystem really. I mean, I trade on Solana, but I don't know. I'm not in the know at all. But the way I've heard it described is you can get a majority of the Solana validator set on a Zoom call, which I don't think you can do that for Ethereum. Definitely can't do it for like a Bitcoin, of course. And I think for most, there are some other chains out there like Avalanche. I don't think you could do that. So in some sense, it is more centralized, but it also performs really well. So, it's a trade-off. Okay. I mean, I can talk about this a lot more, but let's move on to a different topic, which is, which I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday that Ross Ulbricht was finally released from prison. I'm a latecomer to crypto. I think in this chat, you guys have been following it much more closely than I have. I basically started paying attention in 2019, 5 years ago. But I know Ross's story a little bit, and I would love to have, one of you guys, maybe Rhett, I know you're passionate about this topic a little bit, talk about what you know about Ross and what happened the last couple of days.
Ross has been kind of a hero to both crypto and libertarians for a long time. There's been this like free Ross movement since probably over 10 years ago, and really not a lot of traction until this election with Trump. And I'm surprised there wasn't a lot of traction because he does have widespread support of a lot of people. So Ross obviously was the creator of Silk Road, which was a online drug market, basically. Think of it as like Amazon for drugs that you use in the dark web. And he was like a smart guy, computer scientist, and very much libertarian. And so kind of his view was, hey, if someone wants to buy drugs, they should be able to buy drugs or whatever. So he had this online marketplace to connect buyers and sellers. Ended up getting arrested. What's interesting is when he got arrested, the FBI claimed that he had put out 5 different hits on people, did a bunch of murder for hire, and the whole, all of the, most Americans were like, holy crap, this guy's horrible, and, throw him away forever. But then he was never charged with that. And a lot of people think that maybe those were made up charges to kind of hurt his reputation before the trial, because the trial was, I have it up here. He was charged with engaging in a criminal enterprise, narcotics conspiracy, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and conspiracy to commit computer hacking. And those, if you hear those terms and then you hear that he got 2 life sentences plus 40 years or something crazy, the punishment does not fit the crime, even close. They're insanely off. And what some people have compared this to is okay, you hear those charges, and then you hear what Sam Bankman-Fried did, where he stole decabillions from his own users and did all these things and bought political favor and all this stuff. And then Sam gets what did he get? 20 years or something. And it's just insanely egregious. And Ross has now already been in prison for, can't remember how long, but more than 10 years.
It's been 11 years.
Yeah, I'm super happy that he's been released. And I don't know a single crypto person who isn't. And I think of all the pardons out there, this is one of the better pardons you could do, in my opinion. I think so obviously deserve that pardon. And And frankly, this won Trump a huge amount of like long-term favor amongst most crypto people. Like I said, I don't know hardly any crypto people that were not in favor of this. I think Trump gave a speech in Bitcoin Nashville during the election.
That was a great speech, dude. I remember he got huge applause for this, right? Yeah.
Yeah. There were two things that he got super high applause for, and one was freeing Ross, people loved, and then one was firing Gary Gensler.
That was people one, yeah. He was like, "Oh wow!" I remember he was like, "Oh wow!" The crowd really responded to that. Let me say it one more time. Yeah, I think I love.
Yeah, yeah, really big deal. I think I'm super happy about it. I've been hoping that Ross will go do a bunch of podcasts and things because I want to hear his story more. I'd love to see him get more involved in the crypto community. You know, when he got arrested, crypto was much smaller, and his main connection to crypto was like Bitcoin was the currency of the Silk Road at the time. So I'll be curious to see if he gets more involved in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, one of the craziest things about that story was, I don't remember the specific number of years. Like you said, they sentenced him to like 2 consecutive life sentences in prison. And I mean, like, people commit murder and get less time. Like, there are some people who, you know, spend just a few years because, it's not, like some weird circumstances, and like the person obviously committed murder, but then it's just like, oh, they're going to get like, you know, they'll get out on parole in not very long. And this guy was just like railroaded. I think that's partially just because of how early crypto was. Everyone was super afraid of it at the time. And so it was like, this thing's connected to crypto. Crypto must be, you know, this illegal, illicit thing. So we're just going to throw the book at him, make him serve the maximum possible sentence so that we can scare people off from participating in this thing. And I mean, like, I think there's some argument to be made whether or not he should have gone to prison. Probably a few years, not 11. I mean, his actual
it was
crimes were basically...
It wasn't even for 11, right? He was like, they were like, "You're gonna die in prison." That's what they basically said to him. Right?
No, I just mean like he's served 11. That's how long he's been there. And I mean, okay, so he facilitated some illegal activities. Maybe there's some punishment there to be had, but like, just not the sentence that he got. That was very obviously, you know, put there for political reasons, or just because they're afraid of, you know, what this thing could mean.
100%. They did it to send a message, you know, and I was definitely part of that, like the general public who didn't really know what was going on. I remember hearing the story and being like, "Oh, like he's trying to kill people? Yeah, F that guy," you know. And I was like, back to work. Like I knew nothing about Bitcoin and Ethereum at that. I guess it was before Ethereum, right? And I was just like, "Oh yeah, like yeah, send him to jail. I don't care." Like I just remember just hearing vaguely about it, not really knowing the details. But there's a tweet going around recently that said like a couple of the FBI agents involved in the case like stole Bitcoin, because I guess they seized Bitcoin as part of this whole thing from Silk Road, and they stole it, and like were actually indicted, and I think charged and convicted. So like there's some really shady stuff happening behind the scenes. But
yeah, I didn't see that, but that is interesting. That Bitcoin could be tempting because it's worth a lot of money now, especially. By the way, as a quick aside, after the Silk Road got shut down, several more popped up, and I don't know if there are any live now, but you know, several years ago after that got shut down, there's like 5 more that popped up. And a friend of mine published some economics research on the topic of like, hey, if you find the number 1 Silk Road or Silk Road equivalent fentanyl dealer and arrest them, how does that impact US-wide fentanyl prices? And basically what he found was, if you arrest the number 1 fentanyl dealer in the US, you will prices will go up a little bit for about 2 weeks. That's the impact. It's like the impact here is like pretty small. And I think the message they were trying to send didn't really get sent, because there's still like, you know, lots of this activity going on. So yeah, pretty interesting.
Well, I mean, the activity that I thought, okay, look, I mean, whether or not we should be against hard drugs, I think is a different topic. I mean, I don't know exactly where I fall on that versus you, but like definitely I think there was a component of like, hey, this Bitcoin thing, you know, we really want to put a stop to it, and we're going to make everyone scared by taking this guy and basically putting him in prison for life. Just felt gross once I learned more about it, and I'm happy that he's out. I'm actually curious why Trump could have commuted his sentence or pardoned him in his first term, and he didn't do that. I guess it's also an indication that he has really evolved his positions on crypto, and it's definitely a good sign for the industry. I mean, wasn't there also some lifting of some Tornado Cash rulings or something as well right afterwards?
The OFAC sanctions for Tornado Cash are gone now. So that's a good thing. My guess with Trump and Ross, maybe he didn't even know who Ross was the first time, or barely knew who he was. I don't think he was following crypto quite as closely. And Trump used to be a big crypto skeptic. Like, if you hear what he said about crypto back in like 2016, he was pretty negative toward it. And there's a lot of people who have flipped since then. If you look at the CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, he was super anti-crypto, and now he's super pro. I think a lot of people have evolved their positions since then.
Yeah.
It wasn't as big of a topic back then either. The whole Free Ross hashtag or movement, or whatever you want to call it, has definitely been growing more over time. A lot of people have just been reading about the story and realizing, oh yeah, that guy got kind of screwed over. And then with the growth of crypto, it just kind of, the topic ballooned with the ballooning of Bitcoin as well. So I think it just became like a natural thing to, realize there's a lot of people who are trying to address this thing. Maybe I should address it too. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, last question I'll ask you guys on this topic, and then we'll move on to the next one, which is, so President Trump launched a meme coin. So did the First Lady, although the First Lady's meme coin was not as well received, maybe because it was price action wasn't as good. They lifted the Tornado Cash, OFAC sanctions. They got Ross out of jail. There's some other stuff with SEC, with the SEC task force that was announced, right, with Hester Pierce. Like, there's a lot of crypto stuff happening already in just the first few days. You two are both full-time builders in crypto on different projects. How does this make you guys feel?
Super bullish.
Like, you guys must be genuinely worried sometimes. Like, even if I do everything right and above board, the government might not like it and come down on me in some way. Is this mentality switching, or are you not really thinking about it? What are your kind of thoughts?
I think the super harsh war against crypto is basically over. There's lots of countries for a little while that have been trying to compete to be very crypto friendly. The US is finally joining that. I don't think necessarily it's going to be a crypto utopia forever, but it can't really get any worse than it was under the Gensler SEC. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people feel a lot more free now. For anyone outside of crypto, a lot of the people who are afraid that they were going to get in trouble for things are people who are building these are above board people. Like, if you look at what Andreessen Horowitz said, they're we have 20 portfolio companies that are afraid to build what we've funded them to build. And these are high ethics people wanting to build useful things, not charlatans. And so I think a lot of that's changing, and probably pretty much permanently has changed. So I'm pretty positive about that, pretty optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, just I have a lot of exposure to the Avalanche L1 ecosystem. That is a growing thing now that Avalanche 9000 is live, ACP 77 is out in the wild. People are looking, more interested to launching a custom blockchain. Definitely the interest in doing this kind of a thing has exploded. Partially just because of Avalanche is building good tech, but I think it's also the slightly more lenient stance on crypto that seems to be evolving is allowing more people to look at the space and actually think oh, okay, this is worth getting into now. I'm not gonna start up a project and then just like Ross get railroaded and frivolously attacked with lawsuits and legal warfare and all kinds of crap, and then either have to deal with that, close your project, or leave your country, or that's just too much for people to deal with. So most people probably were just I'll do it, I'll just not touch it for now. But there are people who have no previous exposure to crypto, like people in the Web 2 world, are now looking into expanding into Web3 because it's just a growing thing. There's more interest there. There are a lot of interesting use cases, and now it's, a little bit more regulatory wise lenient, I'd say.
Cool. Okay. Glad to hear you guys are feeling more optimistic. That's great. I think that's, in my opinion, like, I think all this stuff is basically just him trying to signal as quickly as possible. Like, I'm launching a meme coin. Like, you can build. It's okay. Get out there and start building. It's time to build,
Yeah, I
So,
think
okay.
that's a pretty good sign.
Yeah. So, okay, let's switch to the last topic for today. Today's an exciting day. Full disclosure, I am a investor in and an advisor to Avant. Avant is the protocol that's founded by Rhett, and it's launching to the public today. It's been on chain for a while, but I think the whitelist is being removed today. So I think it's a perfect opportunity to talk a little bit more detail about what Avant is and where it's going. So, Rhett, if you don't mind, if you could just talk a little bit high level. If someone has never heard of Avant and we wanted to simplify it for them, what is it?
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, we're super excited now. Anyone can come in. We had a whitelist on for the last few months, and things have been going great. So we're excited to offer it to more people. So the first product of Avant is avUSD. And I think the best way to think about avUSD is it's on-chain dollars. These have been around for a while. Tether was the first. There's USDC and others. And then if you mint it, you mint it from USDC. If you choose to stake it, then you capture ongoing yield. So for a non-crypto person, the best way to think about it would be a crypto version of a high-interest bank account. So the way that yield is generated is a person who mints avUSD, the assets that they use to mint the avUSD with, are put into on-chain yield-bearing dollar-neutral positions, dollar-neutral trades by some of our trading partners. It's put into a diversified portfolio of those, and then the majority of that yield is passed through to the person who holds and stakes their avUSD. We think that this is a great way to drive greater liquidity and adoption to DeFi, because we become a heavy DeFi user with all of the assets that come into the system, and also it's a great hands-free way for someone to capture on-chain yield. So there's some of these other yield-bearing stables out there. You see SDI, SFRAX. There's some. There's one called Athena, USDE. Resolve is a great one. So there's lots of options out there. I think the big difference between us and some of the others is the market neutral mandate that the traders put on is a little bit broader than some of these. Some are getting yield just from treasuries, or just from lending activities, or just from what's called the carry trade. Ours can participate in all of those, and so there's it's a little broader there, and then it's very DeFi native in its usage. So we don't have any trades going in any centralized exchanges, etc. We think that DeFi is ready for this sort of thing. So that's avUSD, and that's our first product. And yeah, we're super excited. We'd love people to come and use it. And the easiest thing you could do is just mint and stake it. Eventually, there'll be other things you can do with minted avUSD that we would love for people to do. And just briefly, our vision for the future is to launch what I'll call other AV assets, which would be, the goal for avUSD is to be the best risk-adjusted yielding on-chain dollar. We plan to launch things like avBTC, avETH, avAVAX, etc. That the goal is for each of those to be the best risk-adjusted yielding version of each of those assets. The hope here is that it makes life a lot easier for the DeFi user, where if you're holding, asset of your choice and you want to use it productively, now rather than you having to constantly be shopping and monitoring and diversifying and doing all those things to optimize your yield, you can park it here, and that's kind of done for you under the hood.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that breakdown. I appreciate it. I'm going to simplify it even further. And the way I think about Avant, and tell me if you agree with this, Rhett, is it's rather simple. It's like, look, if you're managing some on-chain assets, usually you want some percentage of your portfolio to be in stables, maybe like 20%, let's say. And if you wanted to keep it that in as safe, stable as you can find, and also earn a decent type of yield on it, like the decisions you have to make, the work you have to do is significant, actually. Like to go find the best yielding stables, but where they're relatively safe, it's a lot of work. And I know, Rhett, you used to do this as a professional. Like before you were a founder, you worked for a Web3 company that basically managed a stablecoin portfolio, right? You have to diversify across chains and protocols. You have to vet the teams. You have to check the APRs. You have to check that the APRs that you realize are actually the advertised APRs. And as new protocols come up, you have to rotate to those. You have to keep in mind bridging and transaction costs and slippage costs and redeem times. And I mean, it's basically a full-time job. It's a lot of time, right? It's a lot of mental energy. And, I'm not an expert in that area, but I do want to get a decent amount of yield for the stables that I keep on chain. So I can go do all of that work myself, or I can go mint something like avUSD, and a professional team and a protocol that's geared towards connecting you to a professional team just does that for you. Right. So to me, the idea just makes sense. It's like a product that I actually want to use myself. I don't want to constantly be thinking about rotating to the next best market neutral trade. I just want someone to be able to do that for me. Right. And this is kind of why I was really excited about this product when we first talked about it last year. And I'm excited to use it myself. So mechanically, just really easily, what can someone do today on Avant's protocol site? What can they do?
So if you come onto the Avant application, if you have USDC in your wallet, you can use that USDC to mint avUSD. So you give up your USDC, you get avUSD in exchange 1-to-1, and then you can stake it. If you choose to stake it, then you start capturing the yield from the underlying strategies immediately. So very, very simple. You just bring USDC, convert it to avUSD, and you can stake it. There are a few liquidity pools on some dexes. So for the DeFi users out there that want to do something other than stake, you could go liquidity provided. There's a few different assets it's paired against right now. So there's other things you can do as well. There will be a growing number of things you can do. But the simplest thing to do would just be, come onto the app, bring USDC, use that to mint avUSD, stake it if you want to capture the yield, and then done.
Gotcha. And just to give people an idea of the yield ranges that not that they can expect in the future, because obviously we can't project in the future, but the portfolio has been live for roughly 6 or so months. Can you give people an idea of how it's performed versus some of its counterparts?
So we've been really pleased with the yield. It's been notably higher than the other yield-bearing stables since the strategy inception, which is about 6 months back. Our lowest yielding week did something around 12 or 13%. Our highest yielding was in the range of 80% annualized. In the last few weeks, it's been kind of in the between 20. Sorry, it's been between 20 and 30% range the last few weeks. Yields for stables have come down the last 3 or 4 weeks, so I'll be curious to see if that continues. But if you look at Athena last week, they were doing somewhere between 8 to 10%, and we were doing around 25-ish. And Athena's a great product, by the way. But I think there's a decent little gap there for those who are yield sensitive.
Got it. Okay. And just for anyone who's going to try to go to the website and mint right now, it's initially going to be available on C chain on Avalanche. Is that right? But can you talk about that and potential expansion plans?
Yeah, for sure. We think that it's important to offer this to to everyone. But yeah, our initial launch here is on the Avalanche C chain. So you'll need USDC on Avalanche, and you'll need some AVAX for gas. That's where you can mint and stake. Eventually, we will have both avUSD and staked avUSD bridgeable, and people will be able to hold it on their chain of choice. But yeah, right now it's just on Avalanche. So yeah, we think that like a lot of these stables, like if you think about Tether and USDC and others, like part of the utility of them is that they can be used in many places. So the vision of this long term is, yeah, this should be really high utility and something that people can use all over the place. But yeah, initially and right now, come to Avalanche to mint, and yeah, we'll announce later when we plan to turn on bridging to other places.
Cool. Okay. And feel free to pass on this next topic if you like. Last question before we'll wrap it up, which is Avant will eventually have a governance token, not right away, but how will that play into people who are, involved with Avant, whether LPing or staking? When is that going to go live? Is it going to be available on multiple chains, et cetera?
Yeah, so details around governance token, I'm not going to share a lot of just yet. We're working on some things there, and want to make sure that we don't announce certain things too early. But it will have a governance token. We think that token will be really useful to the system, and I think that I think this kind of goes without saying, but the goal here is for the governance token, the Avant token, to benefit the whole system, and for the growth of the system to benefit the governance token as well. So that will exist, and details on mechanisms and when it goes live and some of those things, I'll keep. We'll keep that quiet for now. But
Fair enough.
For the moment, would love people to come and park some of their stables with us.
Perfect.
Can you say how bullish you are, or are you not allowed to say that?
I think this is a really valuable product. Like it's kind of the product that I personally really have always wanted. To be able to find a good, consistent place to park certain assets for yield and have that be an adaptive, yield generating solution. I have spent a lot of time generating on-chain yield myself, and it's a lot of work. And so I think it's very useful. I also think stable coins are the biggest product market fit category in all of crypto so far, and I think that will grow a lot. And so my personal expectation is that the total amount of outstanding stablecoin supply in 10 years will be maybe $1 trillion more than it is now. I think it's just going to be enormous. We're hoping to serve a really key niche there. We think that there's, like, on the stablecoin side, there's a lot of value in different approaches. So I don't think that stablecoins will or should be a winner take all. We think that we'll serve a really key niche that no one else is serving in the same way, but there's other great ones too. Just to call out one, Liquidity V2 went live today. There's new stablecoins called Bold. It's highly decentralized, highly censorship resistant, really kind of like, you could think of it as like an Armageddon resistant stablecoin. And that stuff, like that niche, I think is ultra important as well. And so I don't know if that gives you a sense of how bullish I am, but I think that this is one of the most important categories in crypto. And I think that we're serving like a super important niche within that category. So yeah, I'll say I'm highly optimistic.
I'll agree with that. I'm generally very active when it comes to generating yield. I'm always like doing either concentrated liquidity or lending or leveraging something somewhere on some kind of platform. but there are occasionally times where it's like I get super busy and I've been, away from my, activities in DeFi for like a week or something. And I come back and realize that, some stable coin that I had been providing like a concentrated liquidity range has gone out of range, and now I haven't been receiving any yield for like a week. And then I'm like, well, that sucks. And I didn't pay attention to that. Like this kind of a thing, I could just put it in there and you guys can go ahead and yield it for me. Although I may end up taking that and then putting it back onto something like Faro, which I'm addicted to, and then just generating yield on top of the yield that you're generating for me. So that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, we would love to find lots of things for you to do with that, so you can stack yield on yield if you want to be active, and and we're really oriented toward collaboration. So we're hoping to find lots and lots of things for you to do with this, with lots of other assets on lots of protocols, etc. So yeah, I'm hoping that over time you'll find more and more very interesting things you can do with your avUSD.
Awesome.
It might be the absolute perfect timing to launch a product like this, because I mean, depending on who you talk to, like last week, the people were pushing this narrative that we're 75% of the way there through the bull market. So, as hopefully our listeners have made a decent amount of money in crypto and can start rotating it into stables, think about selling at least a portion of your crypto portfolio and making sure that you can survive the next bear market whenever it comes. And what better place to park it in a place than like Avant, where, it's a stable value token that's yielding a pretty high amount and, kind of be able to weather any storms that may come. I think it's a good time to start rotating some P&L into more stable products, could be good.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of the reason why we had a conversation a couple of months ago where we were talking about, how sometimes it's easy or hard to make money in crypto. I think if you're too active or if you're too invested in trying to make perfect trades, chances are your actual risk of failing goes up a lot higher. But if you're just sort of like passively watching the market and realizing, okay, well, back when Bitcoin was hovering around, what was it, like 45, 46, it was going pretty flatlined for a while. It had come down quite a bit from its highs around, what was it, 70 at the time. Like that would have been a pretty good time to buy Bitcoin. Like it could have still gone down further and you would technically be making a loss on that. But, eventually at some point it's going to come back up like all markets do, and you'll be in the green and you'll be in profit. And then when the market is high and people are very bullish, everyone is making tons of money, that instead of jumping on the bandwagon, that generally tends to be the perfect time to start saying, like, okay, well, I've done pretty well in this last however many months or weeks or whatever. Maybe I should start realizing some of my gains, putting it into something safe. And I mean, if you could yield 20% on a stable token or whatever it may be, like even if it's like 10%, if you could yield 10% on like half of your gains while the market's crashing for the next 2 years, that's pretty great, honestly.
It's always hard to know when to time the market, but yeah, I think there is something to the kind of mean reversion, which I think is partly what you're getting at, Jared, which is
yeah, exactly.
When the market's nuked really hard, it's like, okay, this is maybe a good buying opportunity if you have liquidity to buy. I remember noticing this during the 2008 financial crisis that most people knew that a lot of homes were like a good deal, but a lot of people didn't have the liquidity to buy them. I've got a buddy who bought a 3-bedroom house for $50,000 at the time. It's like pretty nice. It might have been 60,000, something like that, kind of crazy. But yeah, I totally agree with you there. Yeah, I think having some of these more kind of stable places to park assets is really good, in addition to being able to go really risk on with most of crypto, from meme coins to even ETH, Bitcoin, AVAX. There's a lot of volatility in the space, so having access to something that's low volatility is, I think, really useful.
Yeah.
All right. Congratulations on the launch, Rhett. I know you've been working very hard on this for the past year, and excited to see where it goes. And if anyone wants to partner in any way with Avant, please feel free to reach out to Rhett. And if anyone has suggestions on what we should cover on the pod, please send any of us a message. We'd love to engage. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. Cheers. Good luck out there.